Hello, lovely people, and welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and this is Evolved Chit. It's my little corner of the world where I like to talk about spirituality, metaphysical stuff, universal laws, and psychology. So, I've been thinking about, I'm always thinking about a topic, and I don't know why I think about it. I always write ideas down on a whiteboard that I have in my house, and I wrote this thing down about the mirror exercise. So, you know, my journey started like in 2017 when I happened upon this term twin flames, and I met someone around that time who kind of, fit that bill. So, and it turns out they're probably not. So I call them my fake twin flame. But one thing that I learned in the process of my fake twin flame, and then ultimately meeting a person who kind of aligns with that definition. My real twin flame, who knows, right? But the one thing that I thought about with my fake twin flame is just how much that was reflecting back to me, just where I was not showing up for myself. So recently I was speaking with someone who follows me here on my channel, and we were talking about, the how. How do people who are on this journey move through this process? And just if you follow me and listen to my other videos, I talk about this in every video, but a lot of it is repetition. But we are, we're being mirrored, if you will. So I was thinking about just my twin texted me today, and it got me thinking about how, like, a year ago, 2 years ago, it would kind of incite me a little bit. Like, I would get a little triggered or anxious or project. And when I think about this question of the how, when I got a text from him today, and it really didn't trigger me, it was just like getting a text from anyone else. I thought about what my how was. And there really is no, one size fits all kind of how for this. It really is what your situation is and what works for you. So in my videos, I share my experiences of what I did, and what works for me. So when I met my fake twin flame, I don't know what that was. I'm not a therapist or anything, but I do know about the term limerence. But I'm going to give myself a break because I'd gone through a lot leading up to that point, with a lot of loss and a lot of trauma. And I'm really grateful for that person and what they showed me about myself, and it took me a little while to see it. So it was like a delayed mirror effect, if you will. And it was really just showing me how I was ignoring like red flags, how I was, not putting myself first, or kind of letting things slide. And that may resonate for you in your own unique situations. But what that person showed me was that I am worth more than that, that I am worthy of, not that they treated me terribly, but there were things that I allowed, or things that I believed, that it just showed me that I'm worth more than that. I'm worthy of respect, my own respect, self-respect, and the respect of others. So I'm really grateful for that experience. But what it showed me was how to work through this, and it took me a lot of things to try and do. And over time, it literally is time. If you're somebody who can just, if I can give you the algorithm right now and you can just forget anything up until this point, do it. Do it. But if you can't, or you have to go down a road, kind of amble down the road a little bit and figure out what works for you, that's totally normal too, and perfect for your situation. So I'm going to go, going back to this question that my friend has here, and that is, what's the how? So, and to further elaborate on that, she had mentioned You know, like following other YouTube channels and other, you know, coaches and things, and how they explain everything but the how. And that's because why you would want to purchase a course or an ebook or something like that. So I'm not judging anyone. People have a right to make a living, and there's a lot of really wonderful people out here who are helping people through this process. So, but I'm going to share with you my how and what I did, and then also how I've used this to help other people with their how. And it's really not all that magical. So I'm sorry if this is disappointing for you. But one thing, like first things first, and that is I highly recommend that you detox from all content that has you thinking, pining, longing, hoping, dreaming, and wishing for your person or your twin flame. And I know how hard that can be, because, you know, I thought I was strong enough too, and thought I knew better. But you know, our energy, it's tricky. That addictive energy can be really tricky. So I did try numerous times to kind of lessen the amount of content I followed or listened to or watched, you know, and it wasn't until I just stopped. I unfollowed anyone and everything that had an oracle reading, a tarot reading, twin flames explanations, what have you. I just stopped, and I focused on other things. Like I listened to other content. I worked on some, personal and professional development. I filled that time with other things. So detoxing is very important. And again, if it's hard for you to even fathom that right now, do it gradually. You know, if every week just say I'm going to follow 20% fewer channels or something like that. You know, and again, this is really important to detox from this, because the energy that we kind of put into it. And if you're anything like mine, you were looking for, the video to drop or something like that, because we're seeking that validation. It's that energy, that hit, that it's like a drug. And it can keep us stuck. So I kind of stepped away from the twin flame stuff. I had some online, connections, friends, and that I met through the twin flames community, and I had to even kind of, put those aside, with all due respect to them. But it was something that I had to do because it was too triggering for me. So everyone needs to do what they got to do for themselves, but that's what helped me, was to remove all of this from my world, or reduce it dramatically. So once I detoxed, I just started spending more time with myself and by myself and with my thoughts, and becoming more cognizant of what was going on inside of me. And it started with the twin flames content and spiritual content and this and that. I mean, it's all kind of flashing before my eyes here, but like Neville Goddard, Abraham Hicks, all the gurus, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, you name it. I love that stuff. It's really good. And so it was really nice to kind of reconnect with all of that too, from having indulged in this kind of content, years ago, but being on the other side of all this twin flame stuff. So that was incredibly helpful, was, working on myself and finding what works for me. I love the spiritual content. I love a lot of other things too, but it's kind of a blend. It's this, coming up with your own kind of like recipe of what works for you. And that's going to always be changing. So being able to spend time with your thoughts and by yourself, and or with yourself in some way, allows you to connect to those thoughts, because we really are so like tapped into technology. We're on these hamster wheels. We're doing, we're having, we're FOMOing, we're whatevering. So it was incredibly helpful for me. And I know not everyone has the luxury of being able to have some solitude like that, but if there's any way you can carve out some time once or twice a day to connect with what's going on inside of you. And that could be a walking meditation. Sometimes I do it while I'm cleaning. the weather's getting nice, I'll be doing my gardening and using it for that. It's just allowing us to quiet that noise that's always going on, the computer that we are. And then being able to kind of put that aside and tap into the soul stuff. So however you're able to do that for yourself, it can be incredibly invigorating and enlightening. It still really blows my mind when I think about, some of the programs that I was operating out of, or the cues that I would look for or take to validate me or something like that. So, and a lot of it was just from one, my upbringing, but also from a really challenging marriage. So it was literally like a shedding of my skin. So if there are things that have happened to you in your life that have been traumatic, if it's something that you're able to do, you may want to explore that with the appropriate professional and work through it, because I was surprised by how much was actually kind of keeping me stuck, like limiting beliefs or fears and things like that. And I always thought I was pretty brave and ambitious, and I am, but it wasn't always for the right intention. And again, nothing dark or suspect, but just didn't feel authentic for me. So the detoxing from this content to really just stop putting another person or this concept or this phenomenon, this twin flames phenomenon, on the pedestal, was really important to do that. And then finding time to connect with what was going on within me and why I was seeking an understanding with that connection or this content or the importance of it or the importance I was placing on it. And that's not to diminish, it's really lovely. It really is. And if it's real, it's it is kind of crazy. And I don't know, there's just some stuff that I've been able to validate that's, wow, this really does seem like a thing. And the more I talk to people about it, it's yeah, it's a thing. My twin and I have the same unique kitchen table and other things, even fixtures in our home that are very unique. We have the same thing, but maybe different colors. It's just really, I know that sounds weird, but it's a lot of other things too. But it's just stuff like that. It's okay, that's messed up. So, but anyway, going back to the whole mirror thing, and once you're detoxing and you're spending time with yourself, there's, if you're in touch with it, there's an inner narrative playing out in your head. Or when you're, being affected, maybe you're something stressful at work or in your life, or just the news itself. But, when what's playing in your head, what do you believe? What's that soundtrack? And is it for your good? And that's when, spending that time in solitude and being able to, not solitude, but in some, silence and stillness, I was able to connect to some of these narratives and things that I just, I was on autopilot, and you just start to think that's normal. And, it was just stuff fear-based stuff and, value stuff, am I worthy? This and that, comparisons, all those things that hold us back, that are useless. Really, they're just for, when you think about our evolution as beings, it's, a couple centuries ago, you're sizing up something as a threat. Society has changed, and it's almost it's biological, and we're looking for, other things to determine what, is a threat or, or whatnot. So it's just it's a part of our evolution. So from an emotional intelligence or an emotional maturity perspective, this is your growth spurt. And the mirroring that happens in this situation is, especially, if it's a twin flame, if it's anyone, if it's your boss, anyone can trigger us. What is it showing you? And a lot of it is when I look back on things that, triggered me, or I projected, or, just assumptions or whatever. It's all, my own stuff, like my own fear stuff, that I'm not good enough, or, someone won't like me, or whatever, or I can't take care of whatever those things I tell myself. And they're all stupid, not, I don't mean that sound like a 10-year-old saying that, but they're not necessarily real. So that's why the mirroring is like, what is this showing you? And, if you want to call it telepathy, if you want to, call it your higher self, whatever you want to call it, it's like an inner knowing. So one thing to do is like, and everyone's different, like if you are into journaling and wanting to connect with what you're sensing, like your inner sensing might be, and are there repeating patterns or thought patterns? And when you think about that, how is that being projected? If you're here because you're on a twin flames journey, are you projecting that onto your twin flame? Are you projecting that onto yourself, like any anger, frustration? This is the energy. This is the vibration. This is your frequency. So when you get in touch with what's going on with your inner narrative, and you're able to see it for what it is, that stuff's always going to be there. Like, it's not going to stop. And I remember years ago I learned transcendental meditation, and that was like one of the first things that they said, that you are always going to have thoughts. But how do you allow them to drift by? Because that's all they are thoughts. So you can choose to act on them if it's, something important, or it's, whatever. But if it's just thoughts, that it's trauma, it's old beliefs, it's projection, it's fear-based projection, it's, demeaning someone else, it's demeaning yourself. Is it necessary? Is it needed? Is it important, or is it trauma? So that's the one thing I had to really get in touch with, because, I'm 50 years old, and that's like a long time to have things harden into your, your subconscious. So that's something to get connected with. Next time you're going for a walk or you're working out, how do you kind of just allow yourself to be in that moment and that stillness, and, what are you sensing or picking up on? Is there something that it's telling you? Is it something that is, good for you? Is it helpful for you? Or is it unhealthy? Or is it, bringing up trauma from the past? And is that something that perhaps you need to consider maybe getting, the appropriate professional help for, if you feel like you can't do that on your own? And that's a very brave thing to do. I have done it a few times over the course of my journey here. So it's helpful to talk to someone about that. It's helpful to be able to express those emotions, especially if you're somebody who has had stifled emotions, or you didn't feel heard or seen. So you are allowed to be heard and seen, and you're allowed to be supported, and have balance and beauty in your life. And that's what all of this was intended to show you. So I know how challenging it can be. I have gone through this for a long time. I went through it for like 6 years. It's been the past year where I was like, all right, I see it all for what it is. And it's really on me to hold the line. And it's like that Johnny Cash song, like, I gotta walk the line for myself. And that's what your situation, your twin, or your spiritual journey, or the person or situation that's on your mind right now, that's what this was intended to do. And some days, we're really good at going up against the gauntlet and we feel invincible. And then there are other days, stuff comes up and it affects us. How do you move through that, though? Like, just a little more fluidly. How do you come up with the, I call it a recipe, or like, a self-care prescription? What's yours? What helps you work through those challenging times so you don't get caught up in those cycles? So this is the how. these are the exercises that are in Liora. Liora was a Twin Flames coach and spiritual teacher, and it is said that her teachings are the foundation of some pretty popular teachers and coaches here on YouTube. And it's all mindfulness stuff. And honestly, from the psychological perspective, it's like attachment style stuff. So I found Liora's ebook on Amazon a couple of years ago, and I had been looking for it for a while when I first happened upon all of this, and I heard about her and who she was, the teacher of some of the coaches here on YouTube. And I went looking for her information. I couldn't find her ebook, but I did find some of her content from her former website through the internet Wayback Machine. And when I read her book, it was really like a blend of this, spiritual and just really like divine love and beauty, all the like the wholeness and wellness and simplicity and beauty that we are as souls, as frequencies. And then, we're living in, the 3D reality. It's pretty hard being a human. So her content, speaks to the spiritual aspect of it, if that's something that you're into. I call it like celestial teachings. It's really interesting and compelling, and it's kind of a quick read. So I actually recorded an audio version for myself of that ebook. I just like to listen to things sometimes on repetition. And so I put that out here on my channel. It's in the Twin Flames Teachings playlist. And I recorded it in 3 segments, and I encourage you to listen to all 3 segments. The third segment has the exercises in it. So the first 2 segments, you're going to learn the perspective of like what this journey is all about from Liora's, standpoint, her view. And then she just, talks about the connection and the energetics and the push-pull. And then the third segment includes more just information and the actual exercises that are self-inquiry exercises, that everything I just said in this video, that have you tapping into what's going on in your world. So the next time your person or a situation is triggering you, try and catch it and see what's going on. What is it, and why is it annoying you? No matter how big or small it is. Could be somebody, doing something stupid in traffic that's annoying, or in the grocery store, or a coworker, or whatever. What's it kind of coming up? What's it stirring up inside of you? And the one thing for me, it's like, I'm kind of one of those people. I have always had an opinion about everything. So, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I realized after a while, I was like, you know what, it's just sometimes just too much energy to have an opinion about everything. It really doesn't matter. So choose your battles, and choose your causes, and do what feels right and good for you. So Liora's ebook is a very quick read or listen, and I encourage you to check it out and do the exercises. They are self-inquiry exercises. So if you're someone who's into more of like the psychological side of it, which is what I was into, I went down the attachment style route. So after I put all this Twin Flames stuff aside, I was like, maybe I need my head shrunk, or whatever, what's going on with me? And again, it was just the trauma. Like it was a rough decade or more for me. And all of this stuff just got stirred up. And so I needed to figure out what was going on another level. I needed to intellectualize it. And I was listening to all sorts of content, the holistic psychologist, the crappy childhood fairy, and the thing that was the site and the channel that was most helpful for me in this was the Personal Development School. And they have a free attachment style quiz, which I'll include the link in the description here. But that was really interesting to take that, and I could see how it was showing up, and it allowed me to not only take the intellectual aspect of all of it, but it allowed me to connect it to the spiritual aspect, because I do love all the chakra stuff and all that. I'm a Reiki master and into all those things, and so to me it's all interwoven. But I needed to understand it from an intellectual perspective so I could connect it all. And the attachment style was incredibly helpful because it showed me when my person wasn't doing what I wanted them to do, I could see my attachment style in action, and I was like, ho, 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 this is just energy, push, pull, push, pull. That's what Liora talks about in her ebook, is the push-pull dynamic. So that's why I related to like this psychological aspect, because it's just energy. And even though that's a psychological, diagnosis or whatever, it's still energy. It's still going on within you, your thoughts, your beliefs. And then your thoughts and your beliefs are tangible. They're an energy, and they give off your vibration, even if you're not saying or doing anything with them. And that's your frequency. So as we balance this energy out by just realizing like, whatever, I don't need to get mad over that stuff anymore. It's stupid, or whatever. Can't change a person. Just gonna go live my best life. So it comes back to self-concept. And that's the other thing that was incredibly helpful for me in staying grounded in what's important to me. Life is not perfect. Like, I didn't come through all of this and it's like, yes, I have all this money, or this, I don't. It did, that, none of that stuff changed. I still have my job, I still have my family, my friends, I do all my, weird stuff. This isn't something that isn't, the life-changing aspect of it is you just feel so much more balanced. And it's something, and I can remember listening to other people that I followed and listened to, and they would talk about this, and I'm like, God, what does that feel like? And now that I know what that feels like, and I still get slightly triggered, I catch it sooner, but I'm able to get into that, space, which is why I'm kind of a fan of the term in the vortex that Abraham Hicks uses. And it really does feel like your energy centers are kind of just like spinning on a whole other level. But to me, it's almost like a weightlessness. Like you literally feel like that heaviness of anxiety, or whatever might be weighing you down. It feels lighter. It feels more doable. Like you can tolerate it. It's like, yeah, whatever. There it is, and you can deal with it. So I know everyone has their different degrees of trauma and things that they have gone through. So I certainly don't want to minimize that, and I'm not comparing who had it harder than someone else. But I had a lot of stuff happen to me in my life, and a lot of traumatic experiences, and it was hard. I could see where my conditioning, I could see where my beliefs, my fears, and things would show up. And I had to challenge myself to be brave, even though it was kind of hard to allow myself to be vulnerable and put myself out there and in these ways. So those are the things that helped me. So the self-concept stuff is really important, because you'll need it, especially if your twin flame situation, if it was, if there was a precursor to this where there might have been other traumatic experiences. So it's really important to connect to what you need to take care of yourself and be the parent that you needed and you need to self-parent yourself and nurture yourself. This is what allows us to show up better for ourselves, for others, for our loved ones, for our careers, for our, other pursuits, for the world. And, continue to balance out these energies, this energy. So that's where best, good intentions and, keeping your vibration high. And I'm not talking toxic positivity. Like, we don't stuff those feelings down. We don't, we address those things accordingly. But, how do we keep our vibration high, even when those things get challenging, even when our person is mirroring something to us that we don't want to accept? So this is where this whole concept of, when you have detoxed and when you are in stillness and you are, allowing yourself to see those thought patterns, that's the mirror. That's what this person is showing you, or this situation is showing you. And what does that mean? What are those thoughts? Are they real? Are they even worthy of you entertaining? Are you projecting? Are you angry? Are you unsure how you're feeling, but you're just projecting onto this person, whether it's, negative or positive or just extra, So, again, the detoxing of it all is really important, and from a content perspective, and pouring that back into yourself. And again, the self-concept stuff is really vital. So I put together a very simple ebook. It's just 7 days of simple exercises to help you connect to who you are, how you want to show up in the world, and how you want the world to show up for you. And that's the 7-day mindset reset ebook. It's on my website, evolvechit.com, and you can go to the Get Started page. And when you go there, there's different resources. There's a link to my blog articles about mindfulness, meditation, law of assumption, affirmations, how to persist in your thinking and beliefs. And also, I'm offering 30 and 60-minute coaching sessions if you'd like to connect with me and talk about your specific situation and how we can get your energy balanced out and magnetizing in more of what you want to experience in your life. So, quick checklist reminder, you're going to detox. That took me a while, but I'm encouraging you to do it faster than I did it. It took me a couple years, honestly, because I thought I knew better, and I didn't. So I really encourage people to do that as quickly as possible. And check out Liora's teachings on the Twin Flames Teachings playlist on my channel here. And I encourage you to listen and watch all 3 of those and do the exercises. I know, when I did this ebook, I was like, this is lovely, but I was expecting something more magical. So I want to tell you that I was expecting something more magical, and it's actually very logical and practical, these exercises that she has in this ebook. So they work. They're helpful. They really are. I'm telling you this from my own experience. It takes a little bit of time. And that's why the detoxing and the focus on on yourself and your self-concept and all those things that you're here to do. This is what this situation was intended to do. It was intended to show you these things. So take care of you. Detox from content as quickly as you can. Focus on your self-concept and persist. Persist with that. What have you been holding back on these, however many weeks, years, whatever you have been on this path? What is something that you have been wanting to do but you have been holding back, or you have been waiting because you want somebody to be in your life? So now's the time to act on those things for yourself. This is going to allow you to show up as your best self and the best version of you in society, for your loved ones, for your community, for the world, for history. That's the mission stuff. And that's what this is all about. So to my friend who asked me, what's the how? That's the how, right there. That's the how that I did. So, detox. When you can, spend some time in stillness and connect to your thoughts and your inner narrative and start to see what's real and what's not and what's trauma and where you may need some outside assistance in a clinical professional or a coach or something else. As much as I love tarot readings and giving them, they do keep us longing. And honestly, when you are tuned in, you are your own best psychic. So that's another, benefit to all of this in the detoxing, is that it really allows you to tap into your stuff even more so. I'd always been tapped in, but this has allowed me to tap in on another level. So it's the consistency, it's the persistence, and I don't want to do it all the time either, but I feel better when I do. So you can do it too. So listen to what you're telling yourself, what that mirror is showing you, and how are you going to work through that? And you do that by connecting to who you are and what your self-concept is, and what you need as far as a self-care routine to take care of yourself and to parent yourself. So this is just a reminder that you are loved, you are wonderful, you are freaking amazing, and you are necessary, and you are very needed right now. So step into your power And until next time, I'm sending you lots of love and good vibes for your journey. Bye.